Hi everyone, in today's class we are going to talk about ellipses. So what is an ellipse? Ellipse is a curved line forming a closed loop where the sum of the distance from 2 points to every point on the line is constant. Keywords: center, point inside the ellipse which is the midpoint of the line segment linking the foci, intersection of the major and minor axis. Major axis is the longest diameter of an ellipse and the minor is the shortest. Semi-major is the half of the major axis and semi-minor is the half of the minor axis. Foci is a focus point as the 2 points that define ellipse. The vertices of an ellipse are located at the end of the major axis. Ellipse, circle, parabola, and hyperbola make up the conic functions. So here is the example. So as we can see from here, the longest part is a major axis and the shortest is a minor axis. So the equation of the ellipse is x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1, where h and k are center and a and b are points of the major and minor axis. It has also its orientation, which can be vertical or horizontal depending on the location. Solving for equation from the graph. So here is our graph. As we can see from our graph, our center is located at 1 minus 2. Length of the major axis 2a or 2b. Here is 2b because it lays on the vertical axis. Length is 2b equals 6, which means b equals 3. Length of minor axis is 2a because it's the shortest. The length is 2a equals 4, so a equals 2. Orientation is a vertical major axis is parallel to y-axis. So answer is here, x minus 1 squared over 2 squared, x plus 2 squared over 3 squared equals 1, which means x minus 1 squared over 4 plus x plus 2 squared over 9 equals 1. So here is another graph. As we can see, our center is located on the point 0, 0. Length of major axis is 2b since the vertical axis is the longest part. 2b equals 8 and b equals 4. Length of minor axis is 2a. 2a equals 6 and a equals 3. Orientation is vertical major axis is parallel to y-axis. So answer is going to look like this. Y squared over 16 plus x squared over 9 equals 1. So sketching of an ellipse by using formula. X squared over 25 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. So our center is located on 0, 0. Length of major axis is 2a and a squared equals 25 and a is going to equal to 5 and our 2a is going to equal 10, which means our longest part is 10. The length of minor axis is 2b, b squared equals 9 and b equals 3. And our length of minor axis is going to equal to 6. Orientation, the horizontal major axis is parallel to y-axis. So our graph is going to look like this. So our vertices is going to look like this. From -5 to 0 and from 0 to -5. Short, the longest part. So our next equation is x plus 2 squared over 16 plus y plus 4 squared over 36 equals 1. So our center is -2, -4. Length of the major axis is 2b. So b squared is equal to 36 and our b is going to equal to 6. And the longest part is going to equal to 12. Length of minor axis is 2a. A squared equals 16, a equals 4, and 2a equals 8, which means our length of minor axis is 8. Orientation is a vertical major axis is parallel to y-axis. Since our major axis is 36 is the longest, that's why it's going to equal this. So our vertices are going to look like this, from negative 2 to 2, and from negative 2 to negative 10. So the last part is finding the equation and vertices with givens and graph. Given an ellipse centered at 1, 2 with a vertical major axis with a length of 6 and a minor axis with a length of 4. So our major axis is going to be y, and 2b equals 6, and b equals 3, and minor is x, so 2a equals 4, and a equals 2. So our formula will look like this: x minus 1 squared over 2 squared plus y minus 2 squared over 3 squared equals 1. X minus 1 squared over 4 plus y minus 2 squared over 9 equals 1. So our b part is going to be graph, and our graph should look like this. So our vertices from our graph is going to be here. So 1, negative 1, which is here, and 1, 5, which is here. So the second is a ellipse has a center at 2, negative 4. The major axis is parallel to y-axis and has a length of 10. The length of minor axis is 6. So major is y, and 2b equals 10, and b equals 5, and minor axis is x, and 2a equals 6, and a equals 3. So our formula should look like this: x minus 2 squared over 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared over 5 squared equals 1. Which means this. Our vertices are going to be like this: 1 and 1, 1 minus 1, 5. Which means here 1, 1, and 1, negative 5. That's pretty much it. Thank you for attention, guys.